Hello guys, welcome to a new video. As you saw in the last video, we did the transmission seals. Transmission right there, but in the last video you can actually see us changing it and putting it back on. I'm just filming all over the place with this stuff because there's a lot of things going on, parts, waiting for parts arriving. So this week's video, we are going to do the oil pan gasket, which is the major thing we need to do. And we are gonna do also some smaller stuff, painting the brake calipers, rebuilding them, changing the headlight glass. What more? Power steering, reservoir change and fluid change, and probably some more stuff that I'm forgetting. But anyway, we're gonna do a lot of small stuff, and the big stuff is the oil pan gasket. So we are gonna move on that first, the oil pan gasket, and then afterwards we're gonna move on to the small stuff. But to do the oil pan gasket, the subframe needs to come off a little so we have space to get the oil pan off, which also means the steering rack needs to come out, I think, or I think it's the best way to do it, just have it come out. So that's what we are going to do first, is get that out of the way, because I already removed the X-brace, and then, we don't want to lower the subframe and put some wear on the joints by just pushing it down. So I'm just going to remove the steering rack just in case, and I can clean it properly that way. So let's get that off. Okay, so we pulled the steering rack off and the hoses thingy. So what we're gonna do now is put some degreaser on it, scrub it down, and see how much we can clean it off, because it's very, very filthy. And we didn't actually have to take it off for the subframe to drop to get the oil pan off, but I'm already cleaning everything. That's why not take it off. It's not that hard of a job. So let's start cleaning. So this part is pretty crusty and ugly. So I decided I'm gonna paint it. So we are gonna clean everything up so it's ready for paint, and then I still have the silver paint from the calipers. We're gonna throw that on here. So let's start the cleaning. Then we actually know what state this stuff is in. It looks alright, but just a lot of crusted things baked on there. Okay, we can finally move on to the big stuff. I borrowed the engine crane thingy from Simon, so thank you Simon, he also gave me some tips. So I already drained out the oil last night. That's all the oil that's in the engine. And now we can move on to actually removing the oil pan. So what I think we should do is loosen the engine mounts from underneath, and then we can drop the subframe down, like unbolt the subframe so the subframe and the engine are loose from each other. Then we actually have the space to get the oil pan out. But first I think I'm gonna need to loosen the bolts, just in case, because otherwise if some bolts are really stuck on there and you're gonna rotate or the engine is loose just on the crane, it's just not great. So we're gonna loosen all the bolts first, and then undo the engine mounts, get the engine up, drop the oil pan, and then move on from there. It's my first time doing this, so it should be interesting. Okay, I already loosened a lot of bolts, but like these are 10 millimeters, these are not really interesting. But there are two bolts in those two holes that you also need to remove, and the Torx on the transmission, the 10 millimeters, you also need to remove. So I think all the bolts are loose now. and we can move on to getting the subframe loose. Here is the bolt that goes into these holes, these long ones. So you need to be careful that you don't lose them in the transmission. That's a good tip. So next time we are going to move on to the subframe, loosen that, and then we can move on from there. So we got everything loose now. The engine mounts are loose, the subframe is, the bolts are loose. So we can lift up the engine, and then we should be able to get the subframe even lower and then get the oil pan out. So alright, the subframe is dropped. Now I'm gonna remove all the 10mm bolts from the oil pan and see if we can get it out, if it's low enough. So let's get that off. So after a lot of cleaning, this is the oil pan. As you can see, it's almost completely like new. So we first use the greaser, then we use some diesel to brush off all the stuff that wouldn't come off, and then aluminium cleaner at last. So it's not perfect, but it's close to perfect. So what's next is we are gonna degrease the engine itself, the where the seal meets. So we make sure that we don't have any leaks, and then we can start putting all the stuff back together. So yeah, it's not that hard. It's just that you need to drop the subframe, which makes it a little bit harder. But overall, the job isn't crazy hard. So let's clean the surface up, and then we can put the oil pan back on. So as you can see, the oil pan is back under, so we can finally start putting everything back together. So we're gonna start off with the power steering pump, because that's hanging a bit loose, and then we can move on to the subframe. Like that, it's back in place. So let's tighten the engine mounts, and then the engine is fully back where it should be. So I didn't film much of it, but all the steering rack stuff is in place. So the steering rack itself, and then the new reservoir, and I cleaned off the lines, new hose clamps, stuff like that. So it looks really good. Then you can see the oil pan being in there. It all looks very great. So now we are gonna move on to the brakes. Yeah, painting and rebuild. So let's go. So now we can actually move on to the fun stuff, and then this painting the calipers. So what we need to do is just clean them off a little with this stuff, and then we can actually paint them. It's not going to be picture perfect, but that's not the point. It's just to get them a simple, different color. Ugh. as you can see, it's all here ready to dry next to all the other parts we have here. So yeah, it was a lot of fun to do. We're gonna let this dry, then we are gonna wait on some more parts, and then we can start assembling more of the car. I think next is the, I don't know how this video is gonna be put together, but we did the brakes, so yeah, can't wait to show you the result once it's fully dry. So as you can see, the brakes are on there. The lighting is a little bit bad here, but they're nice and pretty and silver. So yeah, I can't wait to test them out. So yeah, thank you guys for watching the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Of course, we are not done yet, but either you're gonna see it in a separate video or you're not gonna see it at all, and I'm just gonna finish it because it's not really interesting to see. So yeah, we still need to test it, of course, but we're gonna keep that for another time because I need to put the manifold on and some other small stuff. So thank you guys for watching the video. Please like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think of these maintenance stuff videos, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.